my dad. He ended up beating me halfway to death with a wooden paddle and a belt buckle. He then tried to drown me that night. And I ended up having sex one time at 13 years old with a 27-year-old man that got me pregnant. Once I got in the strip club at 14, I realized how much of a little girl I really was. You know, the church being the hospital, there are some sick people, and I ran into one. So I started prostituting with my choir member at 15 years old. You don't get to pick and choose how he used you.
What would be the one thing that you want someone to know? I'm Miles Brown, a leadership development and communication specialist. I'm also a minister of the gospel. Every day I help people share their stories. But pastors, they don't always get to tell their full journey, how they became who they are today. In this show, we dive into the good, the bad, the ugly, the ups, and the downs of becoming and being a pastor. This is how pastors are made, sharing the real stories of real pastors. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of How Pastors Are Made. I'm your host, Miles Brown, and on this show, we go through the good, the bad, the ugly, ups and downs of becoming and being a pastor. And today, I am blessed and fortunate to be out in Atlanta, Georgia, with Apostle Danielle Williams McCord, and we'll get with her in just a moment. But before we do, I want you to be sure to go to howpastorsaремade.com, sign up for the free newsletter. Listen, it's free, okay? Do that real quick. And also go to milesbrownonline.com/forge-in-fire. Pick up your copy of the brand new book, The Fire. It's not meant to burn you. It's meant to build you to who God wants you to be. But with that said, let's hop into today's conversation with an amazing woman that I am super excited to speak with, Mrs. McCord. How are you today?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm all right. You making it through, huh?
I'm making it through.
Okay. It's early in the morning, y'all.
It is early.
It's early in the morning, but we're going to have a good time anyways. Listen. Yes. Before we hop into anything deep, we always start with the origins because no one comes out the womb a pastor.
Ooh, child.
So I want to know just quickly, where are you from?
Okay.
And what was your upbringing like?
Well, originally I am from Los Angeles, California, primarily Compton, California. That's where I grew up with my grandparents. Life before pastoring was very, very opposite of church image, church anything, actually. Starting off, I just grew up in a very toxic home with my parents, and that ended in divorce. But something that doesn't usually happen. I end up staying with my dad. A lot of times during divorce, the kids kind of go with mom, but I stay with my dad. And in that, you know, there was some good and bad. I like to lead with the good, you know, as far as just being a present parent. They say that the first man a girl falls in love with is her daddy, and that's true. You know, just learning how I should be treated, being really stern in education and things of that nature, like being very present in after-school activities and sports and things like that. But outside of that, I always say he was a good dad, but he was a horrible man. I watched my father be a womanizer. I watched him be abusive to those women, like really physically abusive. And so as a child, I thought that this was normal for a man to treat a woman, because my daddy was beating women. He had different women in the house. He was a single parent, so he did have to go to work, and he would drop me off at a babysitter's house, and that opened the door to me being molested for the first time when I was 8 years old. The babysitter had a teenage son that she would leave in charge of us. And when she would leave, the babysitter's son would molest me when I was 8. Of course, never said anything out of fear, didn't say anything, still with my dad, still watching my dad do the things that he did. On top of that, his alcoholism increased. I noticed he would drink beer every now and then, but for whatever reason, he would drink a lot more than usual. On top of that, what I didn't know at that time, he was going through some mental health issues. My father was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and schizophrenia, on top of being an alcoholic. And one day, I remember I got in trouble at school, and my father had what they called a psychotic outbreak. And my dad, whom I loved, who I was used to, my primary parent, my hero, all of the things, he snapped and he ended up beating me halfway to death with a wooden paddle and a belt buckle. He then tried to drown me that night. So that was at 10. I kind of bounced from family member. I went to his mother's house. I went to his father's house. I was with my grandparents on his side for a minute, but the rebellion started kicking in. Ended up going back to LA with my mom when I was 12, which opened up a door to more tragic things. We had a neighbor who lived across the street. He was my stepfather's friend, and he would speak to my parents every morning. So it was somebody that I was familiar with. And one day I was locked out of the house. I ended up getting out of school early, was locked out the house. And this neighbor, this family friend, told me I could stay in his house until my parents got home. And he raped me when I was 12. He was like a 40-year-old man, and he raped me when I was 12. A year later, I was at the bus stop. I was 13 years old. This man pulled up in the gas station on Figueroa in LA. And, he was the finest man I had ever seen in my life. I thought I saw Jesus. I was like, who is this? And, I'm 13 and all I saw was an older man. He liked me. Something about me. He liked me. Later to find out he was a pimp on the prowl, looking for his next prey. And I just looked like a dollar sign, a new one for him. And I ended up having sex one time at 13 years old with a 27-year-old man that got me pregnant after one time. So all those who think that you can't, you do the oochie coochie one time and it's over.
That's all it takes.
No, it's all it takes. You take one time. And I did it one time with this man, which led me to teen pregnancy. I got pregnant at 13. I hid my pregnancy until my water broke. I was about 6 months. I went into premature labor and I gave birth to my son. When I gave birth, the baby was premature, so he eventually passed away. And I always say, Miles, what the little girl that went into that hospital wasn't the little girl that came out. I was strong. I was still, able to handle my trauma with the being molested at 8 and my dad trying to kill me at 10 and being raped at 12. But holding a dead baby did something to me. I always say, a piece of me died in that hospital with that baby. And when I came out something different. I just came out something different. I was angry. I just had this get back. I didn't want to listen to nobody. I didn't care. Just something came over me. And so 5 days later, I turned 14. I ran away from home and ended up meeting another pimp. But he wasn't trying to pimp me at that time. He was trying to help me. But he was like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. He sold drugs and he would get high on his own supply. And so when he was sober, he was so nice to me. He was really cool when he was sober. But then when he would get high, he wanted to beat me. He would beat me so bad because I didn't want to have sex. So he would beat me. There was a young lady who would buy drugs from him once a week, and she was a stripper. And one day she came to the house and she saw me all, beat up and stuff. And she said something to me. She said, you don't have to take this. You can make your own money. You can come to the club with me. And some people be like, how would a grown woman tell a little girl to come to the club? I think for her, she thought she was helping me. She was helping me out of a domestic situation because he was beating my tail, So she was like, girl, you ain't got to take this. And so in a sense, she thought she was helping me. But in reality, she opened up Pandora's box, And so in LA, I got me a fake ID and I started stripping at 14 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. I got in that strip club. It was like, hey, wait, wow, what's going on in here? I didn't know, I young, I was 14. And so, you think of a strip club, you think of just dancing in lingerie. You don't really know what's going on. Absolutely not. And so once I got in the strip club at 14, I realized how much of a little girl I really was. There was some things that were going on beyond just dancing. And I wasn't necessarily prepared or ready for that. The pimps in the club, the men who was like, okay, the dancing is just an appetizer. Let's go. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, I felt like Ebony from Players Club. I just came to dance for y'all. You know what I'm saying? I ain't come here do all this. I came to dance. And they was like, dance, girl, you know. And so I was like, yeah, it's too much going on. So I thank God for praying grandparents, because when I left the club, I couldn't go back to my dad. I didn't want to go back to my mom. So I had grandparents. And they are Southern Baptists from Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, you was in church.
Oh, I was in church. And if you was going to be in their house, that was the rule. Forget washing dishes. You had to go to church. And so they was like, yeah, come on, but you're going to go to church. And I was in church. I felt like I was in church every day. I felt like it was just school and church and just church, you know. But when I was with my grandparents, I got back in school. I got me a summer job. I was in church. I got back on the right path, you know, did a 180 completely. Got back into my little girl mindset. I joined the choir while I was in the church, the youth choir. And, you know, you start befriending the people at your church, you know, your spiritual brothers and sisters, you know, all of the things. And I was 15, and I ended up becoming very fond of a young lady who was in my choir. She was about 18. And we were singing for Jesus. We were just singing and singing and singing. And one day she pulled me to the side and she said, you know, I know you used to dance. And I'm trying to figure out how you know I used to dance. You know, who told you? My grandma back there running her mouth. You know, old folks be gossiping. I'm like, did my grandma tell your mama and your mama told you? I'm like, how did you know? But she knew that I had danced, and she was like, don't worry, you know, I'm not judging you. I dance too. As a matter of fact, I'm still dancing. And I got my own place, and I'm doing this and doing that. Won't you come live with me and we can dance together? We just got out of choir rehearsal. And so I'm like, I felt to say, it's something about when you, that's why people talk about church hurt, because when you come into church, it's like you hold people to a certain standard, and you look at people who have titles and positions and that's in the church as people that should be above. But that's not always the case, especially if we try to make the church seem like a spiritual hospital. Well, everybody that goes to the hospital is sick. Absolutely. So if the church is the hospital, then most of the people in there are sick. You got a few doctors and nurses there to try to, you know, get you well. Mm-hmm. The pastors and the ministers are trying to get you well, but some of them sick too. You know what I'm saying? You know, but if that's the case, you know, the church being the hospital, there are some sick people, and I ran into one. And so I started prostituting with my choir member at 15 years old. And so she not only introduced me to prostitution, she also got me hooked on drugs. And so from 15, 16, 17 years old, we did go back to the strip club, but it was really to get clients. So I'm stripping, I'm prostituting, I'm doing drugs, I'm selling drugs. I became an alcoholic. And if that wasn't bad enough, there was some porn stars that came into the nightclub that I was dancing in. And I went over there to say hey to them, because back then, you know, before the internet, we had the famous porn stars on the DVDs and all the things. Like, it was separate. Now you open Instagram, porn, you know, you open Facebook, everywhere. But everywhere, you know, it's everywhere. But back in the day, it was secluded. You had your section for it. You had your, you know, your time for that. And so it wasn't just out there. So there were select people, and these particular young ladies were very famous in what they did. So I just went to go say hey. And the conversation literally changed my life. And one of the young ladies, she looked at me and she said, have you ever thought about doing porn? And I was like, absolutely not. I'll leave that to you guys, you know. But she said how much money she made from doing porn movies, and that's what caught my attention. And at 18 years old, while still a senior in high school, I started doing porn. And I did that. So when you talk about a childhood, that was my childhood. Yeah.
That is wild,
yeah,
to say the least. Mm-hmm. There's so much in there that, like, for me, I grew up totally different. Mm-hmm. my parents been married my entire life. My mom and dad are about an hour ago that we're in prayer. Okay. I'm not there, but I know.
Right.
Because I know what they do. I know that. And so for me to hear that, I know people have stories. I've heard plenty of wild stories. But when you contrast that to like how I grew up, it's like, how in the world is that even possible? And then the thing that I, especially for the purposes of this specific show, I want to understand is like, how do you get out of all that? Like, I'm going to ask how you eventually left, the whole prostitution and porn and all that. But first, I want to know, because you said you were doing drugs, selling drugs, a lot of alcohol. How do you work through letting that go? Because that's an addiction that holds people for lifetimes.
Absolutely. So the getting out, because now I'm all the way in. I'm stripping, I'm prostituting, I'm escorting, I'm doing music videos, I'm doing porn, I'm with celebrities, I am with ball players, rappers, I'm traveling the world, I'm living, right? I'm in this thing now. As a result of that, a lot of men in the industry, they'll fly a woman out. And so there was a man who contacted me online. And while I was in LA, he was in New York. And this was something that I did on a regular basis. This was part of my job, and so it wasn't, I had no reservations. I had no, like, I don't know. No, this is what I did. So when the man contacted me, I went to New York, and I was only supposed to be in New York for a few days, but that didn't happen. I got to New York, and the first couple of days was great. He wined and dined me. He, took me out. He got me drugs. He got me money. He got me whatever I asked for. He gave it to me. And we end up going to a club. Mind you, you pay for a prostitute. So a prostitute gonna prostitute, okay? And so he ended up going to the bathroom, and there was another man, a potential client. So, I was trying to get the potential.
Increase your clientele.
And there we go, increase my clientele.
You had money to make.
I had money to make, and that upset him. I didn't even know he saw me. Like, I thought he went to the bathroom. I was trying to be a little respectful, but he came out. I was trying to do it on the low. He came out the bathroom all fast. But when he came out, he was livid. He was livid, and he snatched me out of that club. And, I'm from Compton, so I ain't going down without a fight. So I'm bucking back and fighting back and talking crazy. And I kid you not, he looked at me with the most darkest eyes. His voice got deeper, and he looked at me and he said, "I'm going to kill you. You are not going to leave here." And as a result of my lifestyle, I've been in very compromising situations. Like, I've been in some scary moments. I done been robbed on the track. I done been drugged, woke up with like 7 men standing over me. I've been chased down by pimps, thrown in trunks, all kind of stuff. But nothing compared to this moment. It was literally like a scene out of a movie, which one day I pray that it does become. He drove me to a house that looked abandoned. It looked like an old abandoned house, and he took me through the basement. And the basement had a little room in it, and it had a mattress on the floor. It had an old TV. It had a boarded up window. It had 2 old jackets hanging up in the closet and some old sneakers. I remember it like it was yesterday. And it was really small. And he threw me in there and he closed the door. Now, we had been drinking and partying and drugging, so I don't think it hit me yet until I woke up the next day. When I woke up the next day and I realized where I was, I think that's when an overwhelming sense of fear came over me. And I'm a tough girl. I've always been tough. But in that moment, I knew it was something serious. And for the next 3 weeks, I was locked in this basement with this man. I was only supposed to be there for like 3 or 4 days. I was in the basement for weeks. and he beat me and he raped me and he was into voodoo. So he chanted over me. He did everything you can think of. And I knew that after he got done with his entertainment, that he was going to kill me. But this is where I thank God for praying grandparents and anointed grandparents, because without them, I don't believe that I would have the relationship I had with God. My grandparents gave me God. And even though I was stripping, even though I was prostituting, even though I was in the porn industry, I stayed in church. I went with my blonde hair and my stilettos and everybody looking and pointing and whispering, but I went and I praised and I worshiped and went right to the club. I got off a bench and went right to church. I got out the bed with the married men and went right to church. It's like I held on to him even though I was a hypocrite. Okay? My lifestyle was totally opposite of the word, but I still had a piece of him. And I'm so grateful that I did, because he would lock me in that basement for hours. And this particular day, because I said, I've been here too long, eventually he's getting ready to do whatever he said he was going to do. And while I was in that basement, something in me said, pray, Danielle. And I prayed. I don't think I ever prayed like that before. I don't think I even knew how to pray other than over my food. Thank you, Lord, for this food. Please don't let it make me fat. In Jesus' name, amen. You know what I'm saying? That was my prayers. I didn't know how to pray for real, And so, or less, I was in the porn industry, and I was hearing stories about people getting STDs, and you prostituting, the condoms break. I'd be like, Lord, please don't let me get an STD. Those were the extent of my prayers. But when I was in that basement, baby, I turned into a mother of Zion. I don't know where that came from, but I turned into a mother of Zion, and I was praying down. And I said, Lord, if you get me out of this, I'll change my life for you. Just don't let me die. And I was just wailing and travailing and crying out to God, like, please, please, I'm done. I know I said this to you before, because, we get in situations and we like, oh, Lord, we nervous. And we like, Lord, if you get me out, I'm done. And we'll stop for a minute till the money get low.
Weeks.
Yeah, a good 2 weeks. The money get low, or that itch come back that needs to be scratched. Them withdrawals kick in, or, things occur, and you go back on your word. You go back on those promises. But this time was different. And I meant what I said this time. And I didn't even know what it was going to look like on the other side, because I've been doing this so long. You talking about since I was 14. I've been doing it so long, and I didn't even know what the other side looked like. But all I knew in that moment was, if he got me out this time, this was the last time, and I was done. And I travailed in that basement. And he heard me, because a few days later, that man's friend came to that house looking for him. Found me. I thought it was his turn. I really did. I'm like, oh, he finna get in there. And he was just as surprised and shocked as me. He looking at me, I'm looking at him. He looking at me, I'm looking at him. And he like, what's going on? And I said, your friend is crazy and I need help. And he ended up getting me out of there. And I knew somebody in New Jersey who bought me a one-way ticket back to LA. And I never looked back. That was in 2008. Again, I didn't know what the other side looked like, because I had been accustomed to that lifestyle, the drugs, the alcohol, the prostitution, the fast money, all of the things. That's all I knew. But when I got out of that thing, I knew that I had to keep my vow to God, because had I gone back, I wouldn't be sitting here with you. It's like God told me, you go back, you ain't going to make it out. And I don't know what that means, if it was going to be from HIV and AIDS, jail, or death. But I knew if I went back, if I touched a pole, it'll fall on my head. You hear me? If I walked on a porn set, the house probably cave in. I just knew that I could not go back. And so leaving the porn industry, leaving the prostitution, leaving everything on the table. The drugs and the alcohol, I know this is going to sound churchy, but this is the truth. I literally asked God to take the taste out of my mouth. I said, Lord, I don't want to, I don't want to drink like this anymore. I don't want to do drugs like this anymore. I'm done. Help me. I don't want to go to AA either. I don't want to do that either. Just take it away from me. And I didn't want to drink anymore. I used to have to take a drink every morning before I started my day. And then the next morning, I didn't have nothing to drink, and I didn't go to the liquor store to buy nothing. And that morning turned into 2, and then a week, and then 2 weeks, and then a month without any alcohol, a month, 2 months, 6 months without any drugs. But then life starts lifing, right? And then the first thing we want to do is go back to what we're familiar with. So I remember that I just bypassed the liquor store and called the drug man. You would have been better off getting you a drink. You didn't call the drug man, you didn't call the dope boy. So I didn't pass the liquor. I'm going through. I'm like, I need a little fix, whatever. And I called the dope man, and I bought some ecstasy pills. And mind you, I hadn't touched nothing. So normally when you get it out your system, the first one gonna get you right? I took that first pill, nothing. I said, did he sell me some Skittles? Why is it not working? What's going on? Normally I'd be on my back by now. The first one didn't. So I called him back. I said, it's a couple of hours. I ain't hit it. That one didn't hit. He said, okay, come back. I'll give you some more. I took a second one. Nothing. I took a third one. Mind you, this stuff will kill you. Now. You can die, okay? You can literally just die. I took a third one and nothing. And I'm mad. I'm like, what is going on? And the Lord said, what did I tell you? And I felt so convicted. And I was mad too because I paid for 3 pills that day. But then I felt so convicted because I remembered the vow that I made. And I said, I'm not going back. And he said, you can't go back if you wanted to. I literally took 3 pills. I couldn't get high. And I never touched drugs again. I never, ever touched drugs again in my life. It literally wasn't worth it. Because I knew that it wasn't going to work anyway. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wasn't going to keep wasting my money. But I didn't want it anymore, So when you say, well, drugs and alcohol, it literally ruins people's lives. And it is a stronghold that most people don't tend to break away from. But I always say, when you want it, you want it. And you're going to have moments where you might mess up and you might slip and you might fall. The Bible says a just man falls 7 times, but he rises again. We all sin and fall short of the glory of God. It's not about you making a mistake. It's when your mistake becomes your lifestyle. A lot of people gonna say, you might leave here and make a mistake. I might leave here and road rage. So it's like we all gonna have something. The problem is a lot of people get stuck in the something. And that something may be drugs, that something may be alcohol, that something may be pornography. And a lot of us get stuck in it and we get comfortable in it and it feels good. And then now it becomes our norm, it becomes our lifestyle.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And I know one other person that used to do drugs that just stopped. My grandfather, actually.
Mm-hmm.
He just, no more cocaine.
No more.
And I'm like, how lucky are y'all? You know how many things people deal with, whether it's drugs or alcohol, whatever addiction, that we literally pray, can it just stop? And for you to say you don't want to go to AA,
I didn't want to go there. I ain't going up in there with them people talking about, hi, my name is Danielle, I'm drunk. I'm not doing that. Help me, Lord.
And so when you eventually walk away from a lifestyle that is about as fast as life can get.
Oh, yeah.
What's it like when life slows down? Like, what is that experience when you are 3 weeks away from, I haven't done nothing, I'm done with the drugs, I'm done with the alcohol, there's no men coming around, I'm not near a stripper pole, and you're like, okay, now I'm living a totally different life. Now that it's slowed down, what is that experience?
It's painful. The transition is painful. Deliverance hurts. And a lot of people don't talk. Healing hurts. And I know we say, you got to be delivered. You got to go through healing and it's better on the other side. Yeah, absolutely. But it's painful. It is a painful process. It is a hard transition. When you have been stuck in something for years and years, and you've been feeding your flesh for years and years, and now all of a sudden you starve it, that don't feel good. Even the natural body, when we go on fast or when we do things to our body, detox our body, that don't feel good. So it is a necessary, painful process. And so for me to have gone from one extreme to now the next extreme, one lifestyle to a totally different lifestyle, that transition was uncomfortable. That transition was hard. That thing, I think the deliverance was the most painful season of my life because it was like I was watching a part of me die that sometimes I wanted to go save her because that's all I knew. And so I thank God for the right people in the right seasons. That is very important. They're talking about it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to raise a sinner into being a saint. It takes a village. It takes a team of anointed people to hold your arms up when you want to put them down. And so I thank God for the people that he sent in my life in certain seasons to help me stay up when I wanted to go back down. And so that was hard. It was painful. It was uncomfortable. It was some broke days. It was some hungry days. It was some angry days, and I had to find a different crutch outside of drugs and alcohol, which made it even harder because when life is life and you like, I need a drink. Mm-hmm. When life is life and I need to smoke some weed. When life is life and I'm, do a bump of cocaine or take me a pill or, pop a Xanax or whatever it is. But now you just got to feel it. You just got to feel it. And it hurts. It sucks. But it is so worth it. Like if I had to go through it again, I don't want to. But if I had to...
You should have preferenced that.
Yeah, I don't want to now, Lord, because you got to be specific. You know what I'm saying? But I don't want to ever go through anything like that again. But if I had to, I would do it all over again. If it made me who I am today, I will walk through the same valley over and over. I'll go through the same storm over and over if I knew that I was going to come out on the other side the way that I did.
That right there is, I'm glad you said that. Because a lot of times we gloss over the reality of leaving behind the things that we held on to, leaving behind our crutches, leaving behind our help. I think I grew up in church, so I think a lot of times in church we see the things that we shouldn't do, and we just view them as bad stuff that people pick up, not realizing that those bad things are often the things that are carrying them through whatever the actual bad thing is, the actual trauma. And like that's super difficult. But so you grew up in church. I'm assuming you got saved in church before you even went through all of this stuff. Yeah. Okay. You leave all that behind. You go back to church. What the heck makes you say, not only am I going to serve Jesus, but I'm going to get into ministry? Because I'll tell you right now, you don't have to be a minister to love the Lord.
Tell them again. Everybody think they need a pulpit and a mic to serve the Lord.
Like that is not a necessity.
Absolutely.
So what takes you from, all right, Jesus, I give you everything, to let me see how I can work for you?
I went against my will. I've been held hostage for 16 years. I didn't want this, and I'm just gonna be real. For people who say they want to be pastors and preachers, I'd be like, I don't know if you really know what that means. I know we make it look good. When you see growing ministries or you see powerful speakers, and you see them accurately prophesying and on flyers and it looked good, but baby, no.
I probably had one, maybe two pastors ever say that they actually wanted to be in ministry. And I'm not even talking about being a pastor. I'm just talking just jumping into ministry.
Are they okay? Are you okay? Do you know what you're saying? I've never met anybody that really have had the experience, whether they were a PK or an armor bearer or just grew up in church and got a chance to see what goes on beyond the pulpit, really with that understanding say, I want this. I didn't want none of that, because just like you said, you can love God and not have to be in the pulpit. You can love God and not have to have a title. You can love God and you don't need a mic in your hand. You can love God and just sit in the pews and read your word and apply the word to your life and work a regular 9-to-5 or build a business or whatever. You can get to a sport, whatever you choose to do. Loving God does not mean I have to do ministry. And I knew that and I understood that and I didn't want this. I will shout it on the mountaintop. There were many reasons why I didn't want it. Let's talk about the judgmental part of it. A lot of people will shout over David and shout about the woman at the well and shout about Paul and all of these things and Moses and all, and we will preach it until we huffing and puffing and sweating out our suits, and we will cry in the pews, hearing the testimonies of these people that we've never met and we was not there during their time. But then you'll get an ex-porn star saying that God did the same thing he did for David. Mm-hmm. God did the same thing for me that he did for the woman at the well, and you will get people that'll be like, stone her. You know, and I didn't want to deal, even now, April 8th will be 16 years of ministry. And even now, I still get the comments of once a hoe, always a hoe. It don't matter all of the things that I've done in ministry. People will still see me as the ex-porn star. What's your porn name? I'm a whole apostle with a whole church and a podcast and traveling the world and been on TV. I done brought thousands of people to Christ. I done brought hundreds of girls out of the strip club, men off the streets from selling their tail. But you still want to know what my porn name was? I don't have time for it. And I didn't want to deal with the judgmental part of people and the ignorance of people, especially those in the church. That's where it comes from the most. Those who are in the church, those who are in the pulpit, those who are in the pews got the most to say, but will then shout about David, who killed the man behind some butt. He killed the woman's husband because she was that fine. He had wives and concubines and murdered a man just for some butt. That's what it was. He saw her butt naked bathing on the roof. And then murdered a man, but we'll shout about David. Paul killed the Christians and was a tormentor. He was out of his mind. He was a terrorizer of the church, but he wrote most of the New Testament. And we'll talk about the transition from Saul to Paul on the road to Damascus. And we'll thank God for Paul's deliverance. And the woman at the well had 5 husbands and the 6th one wasn't even her man. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk about how God can change you instantly and all. And Moses was chosen. He stuttered and all, but he cussed the people out and threw the doggone the Old Testament, the tablets, and God told him to speak to the rock, and he hit the rock out of frustration and anger and didn't know how to control his emotions. But we will praise God for that. But then you get somebody in your face who says, I was a prostitute and I was a drug addict. And I was a gangbanger, and I've been to jail, and I was an adulterer, and I was into lesbianism, and I was into perversion, but the Lord came and changed my life. And people will be like, ugh.
You know what? I have to ask this. I have to ask this because your story is, I had another lady on who used to prostitute, used to strip. I haven't talked to somebody who said they went to that from the church. How do you deal with your church hurt, knowing that, one, people in the church can be just as judgmental as somebody outside the church, and 2, a lot of the stuff that you went through came because of somebody who was inside the church with you? How do you even navigate all of those emotions and being willing to come and sit back inside the church?
Someone asked me the same question. Like, I would have been so turned off from church because ultimately church is what led you to that lifestyle. When you were in the world with the men, they couldn't get you. But once you got into the sanctity of church and you befriended somebody in your church, this is what opened up the door. I wouldn't even want to have nothing to do with church people. And I said to that, why would I punish a perfect God for imperfect people?
Oh, you preaching now.
Why? I always say that the Lord has given us a blessing and a curse, which is free will. He does not impose on our choices. Bible says, listen, I'll give you life and death. You make the choice. Now, if I was you, I'd choose life. I'd choose it over here, but you got the choice to make. He has given us a blessing to make our own decisions, but it's also a curse because we make our own decisions. Absolutely. However, I don't believe, and this is where spiritual maturity comes in. Why would I blame a perfect God for imperfect people? And a lot of times we get so caught up about what people have done to us, But we fail to realize the things that we've done to people. I've not always been innocent. And a lot of people who's like, oh, I've been church hurt, or, oh, I've been done wrong. But what have you done to somebody who didn't deserve it?
Come on.
Who did you use? Who did you lie on? Who did you play? You knew you didn't like her. You just wanted that butt. And now she in love and broken, and you just on to the next. You knew you didn't like that dude, but he had money and you just used him for his stuff. You knew that you was lying and scheming on that coworker to try to get that position. You knew you was lying on them taxes. That ain't your kid. You knew you just wanted some more money on your tax check. We always talk about who has done us wrong, but we neglect the fact of all the people that we've done wrong. And so, did she do me wrong? Absolutely. Did I meet her in church? Was she older than me? All of the things? Absolutely. But Danielle wasn't innocent either. Danielle has done some things too. And the woman that was in that church, the man who slept with me at 27, the man who raped me when I was 12, the babysitter, something, my dad, all of those things, they were not God. Why would I punish God for what my daddy did? Why would I punish God for what the choir member did? I don't believe that that's a fair thing. And that goes back to even in the natural, because, sometimes people don't understand spiritual things. Even in the natural, when they say a woman who has been hurt by the last man, she'll punish every other man that comes into her life. You'll make the next pay for what your ex did. And a man, because y'all don't really love easy. And when you do love, you love hard. And if that woman breaks your heart, now you want to just become the biggest player and you want to just run through everything now. So you're going to make everybody pay for what the last person did to you. It's not fair and it's not right. And if we look at that the way that we look at God, you'll change your stance on certain things that come to him.
I think that is extremely mature and probably a message that needs to be preached a lot more. And not just in church, just in life. We cannot hold people responsible for things that they never did. But moving forward, so you say you've been held hostage for 16 years.
Child, free me.
So you get into ministry. About how old are you, by the way, when that happens?
So let me tell you this. I got out of, and God worked so quick. He worked too quick. Like, he didn't even give me rest. That's why I said I went against my will. I got out of the porn industry in 2008. I was licensed as a minister in 2010.
Oh.
Yes, it was quick. It was quick. And again, I went kicking and screaming because I didn't want to deal with the people. I also questioned myself. I was like, who's going to listen to me? Who's going to take me serious knowing what I did? The shame, the guilt. I don't want to tell people that I was a prostitute. I don't want to, because they're going to eventually, see, when you just a stripper or you did something on the low, you can kind of get away, because some of y'all baby mamas done been, ran through. You just don't know it. Some of our mamas and grandmamas was hot girls and city girls. We just didn't know it. I had a camera in the room. So there were some things that I could not hide. I done over 50 porn movies. I couldn't hide it. Even when I wasn't trying to tell the story, there were people, here I am trying to live regular, give me a little regular job. And then here comes some horny man talking about, I know you. You understand? So I could not hide it. And I did not want to tell people what I did. The shame and the embarrassment and the guilt of it. Because I could have said the Lord is calling me to ministry without ever telling my story, but somebody was going to out me. I was in LA. I've been in music videos. I'm in magazines. So I couldn't hide it. I had to tell it. And then what part of ministry was I going to get in? I wasn't ready to preach. He told me to tell my testimony. And it was through my testimony that birthed the ministry. Some people think ministry is just in the pulpit with the Bible preaching a sermon. Ministry goes beyond preaching a sermon on Sunday. Far beyond. That's the bare minimum, really, to be honest with you. Coming up with a sermon for Sunday is the bare minimum. Ministry goes beyond that. And so I didn't even want ministry. It literally fell in my lap. There was a pastor, very well known. He's not pastoring now, but he had a really big movement in LA. That's where I met Ezekiel and Jackie Hill Perry. We all came out of this ministry. And I went and I told him my testimony. And he said, do you mind telling that story on camera? Now, I didn't know it was going to do what it did. So I sat with him and did this interview style version of my testimony. It went viral. And back then we only had YouTube, World Star, Hip Hop, and Media Takeout. It went, when I say viral, I mean millions of views. And from there, he created me an email that I still have. It's called xpornstar3@yahoo.com. And there were so many people who email was like, I never done porn, but I was molested. I never done porn, but I did prostitute for a little bit. I didn't do drugs, but my baby daddy tried to turn me out to prostitution. I had men telling me I was molested and I never said anything, but now I feel free. I was flooded with emails, and then I started getting calls for TV. I started getting calls to come into universities to talk about human sex trafficking. I started getting calls to come to churches and talk to the youth about what to look for and all. So it literally came to me, and I don't know how. So when God calls you, you can run and you can say you ain't gonna answer. You can put on your D&D, but baby, when you are called, you cannot run. And if you think you're going to run, he will turn everything upside down until you obey. There are some that say, well, you have the choice. Not in every situation. The Bible says many are called, few are chosen. Now, when you chosen, you ain't got no choice.
Yeah. It gets real rough
to
run away.
When you're chosen and you going to do what he tell you to do, you can say no, you can kick and scream all you want, but you're going to eventually do what he told you to do. And for me, what has kept me going for 16 years, despite all the hell that comes with the preaching, despite all the negative comments, despite the whole women can't preach and that part of things too I didn't want to deal with. All of those things that still come, all the negative stuff that comes with this, what keeps me and what's my reward is seeing the manifestation of the souls. The people, the men, the women, the boys and the girls saying your testimony made me come back to Jesus. Your testimony got me out the club. Your testimony got me to put the guns down. Your testimony, because some of them may have, and somebody watching, you may have never done porn. You may have never done drugs. You may have never stripped, but something in you can relate with my story. That's why I wrote From Porn to the Pulpit, my book. I really detail the things. There are some people who have never swung off a pole, but they had a family member who had mental health issues. They had an absent father. They've been molested. They had a battle with drugs and alcohol. Now, I may have never gone to the extreme of being in the porn industry, but I know what it feels like to have peer pressure from those around me that I felt like I had to go this way because it was my boy doing it. My homegirl did it. I ended up in situations that I shouldn't have been in because I trusted somebody. So even though there are some people who have come to me within the 16 years of ministry, they may have, a lot of them never done porn, but they're like, it's something that I see in you that I see in myself. And so that's what has kept me going all these years.
That is, listen, there's so much I want to dig into, but I want to move through this. I don't want to hold you hostage no more than you already been. So moving from just being a minister, becoming a pastor is a whole nother. It's a whole nother thing. In fact, people have told me during the show, you're going to be a pastor. One man told me after we recorded, he said, you think you know why you're doing this show, but you're really doing it so that you can learn before you walk into the office of a pastor.
I can see that.
Why would you say that?
I can see that for you.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Why would you say that? I can see it. I can see that on you.
Listen, my dad is a pastor. And like you said, people grow up PKs. I've seen things. I've seen enough. I heard the story of, and I put it in my book, and I've shared it before. My dad went to San Diego one time. He was sent to San Diego by his pastor, him and my mom, to relax and just finally get away after he had taken over another church when their pastor had passed. And when they came back, they told us that they didn't do nothing in San Diego. They sat in a bed while my dad shook and detoxed from the stress of carrying the weight of all that he had just been going through. Hearing that, amongst other things.
Right.
Seeing the calls at 2:00 in the morning because somebody's father passed away. And at the time, we lived in the IE. He had to drive to LA to go be with the family. Seeing the way people talked about him when things didn't go right, or when they didn't listen to the instruction that he gave and things It's enough that I've seen, and not just him, others. I don't want that. I'm okay with preaching from time to time. I'll come, I'll minister the gospel, that's cool. But being a pastor is a lot. So, but I did say that if God makes it happen, I won't run from it. But he gonna have to be the one to make it happen. But what I wanted to ask is this. When you become a pastor, that first year, actually, before we even get to that, because I done seen you preach a few times, and you will preach.
I will preach.
What is that transition like? Like, what was it like the first time you got up in the pulpit and you came down to you like, I was really preaching. Like, at 15, I didn't see myself doing this. When I left the club, I didn't see myself doing this. And I really am up here preaching a sermon.
I remember my first sermon like it was yesterday. It was in LA, as a matter of fact, actually, in Norwalk, California. I wore all black, which now I wear all white. Everybody knows that's my signature thing, right? I wore all black and said, I think my title was "You're Dead," and people was like, "What?" I was like, "My sermon title for today is You're Dead." And they were like, "What?" But I was talking about dying to myself, dying to yourself, dying to those old habits and things like that. And that was my very first one all those years ago. And I remember when I got out, when I finished, and people came up to the altar crying, and I'm like, I don't even think I did that good. But okay, that first one ain't like your last one. You grow. But I'm like, okay. And when it was all over and it was all said and done, that moment of, I just preached. 2 years ago, I was doing porn. 2 years ago, I was stripping. 2 years ago, I was prostituting. And I just preached a sermon and did an altar call. Yeah. It is a feeling that I don't know if I really can explain it. It is bigger than myself, I knew it wasn't me, and I just was proud that God would see fit to look on a little wretch like me to say, you know what? I know you're broken. I know you come from trauma. I know you come from a very sketchy past, but broken crayons can still color.
Come on. That right there, that first sermon, were you scared?
Shaking in my boots, you hear me? Shaking in my boots, baby.
Listen, my first sermon was an atrocity, and I didn't have we're not gonna talk about that.
Okay.
It was bad.
It's bad. Okay, but you did it. I bet you God don't think it's bad.
No, he did. He does.
My God.
It's bad. It was bad. I've shared it before, and I'll share it again later, but it was rough. But there's definitely growth.
Yeah.
I had been on a lot of stages. So, because I used to dance in church and sing and drums and all kinds of stuff. So I've been on a lot of stages.
You a church baby.
Listen, through and through.
Yeah.
Through and through. But anyways, so I had always been on stages, but I had never really been on a stage by myself, which is a whole different feeling. Like I didn't have one of my brothers or nobody else to lean on or play off of. And also I had never done something that I felt was as important as teach from scripture. It was just a whole nother weight. And that anxiety and stuff tore me up. But you now have the title apostle, which means to go from where you were to apostle, most people can't even believe it. But first, can you let us know, what does that mean to have that title?
Child, you own it?
No, I don't.
So the apostle established. The apostle, as they say, is the sent one, right? They say you can't get no higher than apostleship. You operate in all of the fivefold ministries. You plant, you establish, you're sent to go and gather, and all of those things. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to do it. I promise you, I didn't want to do it. And I didn't call myself. I am the Jonah. I'm Jonisha. I am Jonisha. I have ran from every title and every position. I promise you I didn't want it. It was always, God will always send a person to confirm a thing and to establish a thing and to stir up a thing. And I remember the first woman that I was under, which was Apostle Vicky Lee, God rest her soul, she's passed away. She said, "You're going to preach the gospel. I'm going to ordain you as a minister." Mind you, I was still stripping. But there are some people that can see in you what you'll never see in yourself. Those are seers. People that can see you, whoever the people that sat on your platform and say God is using you to get the information, get the knowledge to prepare you for where you go. There are some people that can see in you what you can't see in yourself. Just like with David, when he was crowned king, he was in the yard or in the field tending the sheep. But God knew and sent the prophet to his daddy house, and all of the ones that looked fit and looked like they were ready was not. He was out there in the field. He wasn't even in the house. He wasn't even considered. And he went out there and he was anointed as king while he was tending the sheep. Because some people will see something in you before you see it in you. And there were people who saw this in me when I didn't see it in me. And God didn't have time for me to sit in my pity party and say what I can't be and what I can't do, and all, because that's what I was. I can't do that. I can't say that. I can't go here. I ain't got time for your pity party, because there's a people that I need you to reach. And so he would send people to say, because you got to go through steps. Don't nobody just come out the womb and you an apostle. For those of y'all who don't nobody know you and you the bishop. You ain't been no minister. You ain't been no armor bearer. We don't know. You just popped up and you the bishop. You just popped up and you the. That's not how that works. You understand what I'm saying? It's levels to this. And so for every level, every dimension, he sent people to speak that thing and to cultivate it. So she saw me as the minister, and she licensed me and ordained me as the minister. And then there was a bishop in LA, Bishop K. Danielle Smith, who said, "You're an evangelist." And he ordained me as an evangelist. And I was evangelist for a minute. And I ain't go through, when I start prophesying, I ain't going through another ordination. And I ain't doing all that. I just gonna prophesy, okay? Because I already went through two as the evangelist and the minister. I wasn't doing nothing else. Then here they come with the pastoring. And I literally told God no. I said, no, now you're going too far.
Now God is going too far.
Now, God, you're going too far. You're doing a little too much. And when I said I became Jonisha, I absolutely not. I said, I'll preach. They called me, I'll go preach. Every engagement dried up. Every assignment dried up. There was no itinerary. He said, you won't go do that until you do this. And I said, I'm not doing it. I went to corporate. I went and got me a corporate job. I said, I won't do no ministry. How about that? I'll go get a job. I'm not doing it. I got fired from job. It's like everything dried up. Everything went black until I obeyed God. I kept saying, I can't do it. I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to go through that. I saw what my bishop went through. I saw what other preachers. I don't even want this. I don't even like people half of the time. I will kill these people. The Compton demon will rise up in me. I don't like, because it's one thing to go in a city and preach and get the house in order and then let the pastor deal with the rest. I'm gone. I'm in, I'm out. But then when you pastor, you got to sit with them.
Sheesh.
You got to sit with the sheep. You got to nurture them sheep. You can't just come in here and preach and then I'm gone. That phone gonna ring on Monday. You think you got a break? Your phone gonna ring. That inbox will go. You're gonna get emails. Somebody's dead. Somebody's in jail. Somebody had a baby. Somebody is in trouble. It does not stop. Pastoring goes beyond the pulpit on Sunday. I did not want that. And God said, I don't care what you want. You said, for God I live, for God I die. You said, use me. And a lot of us got to stop lying in church. You up here singing these songs, use me, Lord. And here I am, I'll go. And yes, God, yeah, whatever you want me to do. You sure? You sure? Are you sure when you're confessing these things out of emotionalism, when you're saying, God, you can use me, you don't know, you don't get to pick and choose how he uses you. He uses you based on where you're needed, even if you don't think so. And so for me, I'm like, God, you can use me, whatever you, I'll do whatever you want me to do. Oh, bet. I need you to pastor. Absolutely not. But here we are.
Listen.
Here we are.
Pastoring, I talk to people online a lot now, more than I ever thought I would. I always thought I would be the person to just see people say stuff and I'll just go by. But then it's been like, no, teach. Like, I don't want to. Like, people are annoying. They're not willing to read. They are stuck in their ways. Truth don't change. Like, you can be confronted with truth and be like, I don't care.
Well.
So it's like, this is something else. But I oftentimes see people and they think they know what a pastor does. They think they understand, and they don't understand the weight of being a pastor. And the Bible says that like the pastor's like responsible for your soul.
Absolutely.
And I think that was one of the most scary things for me when someone first mentioned being. I said, but I'm not trying to be responsible for nobody's nothing. I'm barely responsible enough to tell you that Jesus loves you. I don't want nothing else. So when you do get into ministry, or not just ministry, but pastoring, what's that first year like of really being the pastor of a church, of really being that person that people are going to, not just on Sunday, can you come in for 2 hours, do your thing and go back home, but can you come here and really serve this house?
It is a very humbling experience. It is another level of dying to self. Because like you said, as a PK, you watch your daddy get up at 2 o'clock in the morning, drive from the IE to LA, do this, do that, serve the people. And when they didn't get their way or got mad, talk about you like a dog. This literally is what it feels like to what Jesus went through. When the same people who hollered, Hosanna, Hosanna, were the same people who hollered, crucify him. That's what pastoring feels like. Everybody wants to be Christ-like until it's time to be crushed. You want to know what it feels like to be crushed? Be a pastor. I wrote a book called Preaching in Pain because I started because I noticed no pastors was talking about what happens after the yes. What happens after you have the title? What happens when you start pastoring people and you start ministering and you give God a yes? I didn't hear many people talk about it's painful on this side. You go through hell. You be wanting to punch the people that you got to pray for, okay? You literally have to cover the people that are trying to cut you. I know you don't like me. I had a witch sit in my church every Sunday. Every Sunday. I had people come, and witches with 3 of them would come, and they would try to put stuff on the altar. My armor bearers be ready to fight because, you know, we're a little different. I would say we that other church, you know what I'm saying? We're a little different, you know. And so I saw so much, and you still got to say, praise the Lord. You need prayer, I pray for you. And then the Lord give you a word for somebody that you know don't like you, that you know trying to sleep with your husband, that you know then push your baby in the back, that you know talking about you like a dog. And I had to feed them people. I'm not just talking about spiritually, I'm talking about naturally. I had to pay their bills and give them gas money to get to church. You know, you talking about humbling, and we always highlight the wolves in sheep clothing. That's what I can't stand, the internet. And I can't stand when people pick and choose and try to highlight all pastors in this one category. There are some pimps in the pulpit. There are some rapists in the church. There are some no good people in the pulpit. But the Bible had already prepared us for this, right? But there are so many good leaders that we overlook because that's not entertaining. What's entertaining is the pastor that's screwing everybody. What's entertaining is the pastor that's embezzling money. Oh, there go to church again. But nobody highlights the pastor that's feeding the community. Nobody highlights or talks about the pastor that they lights getting cut off because they're paying everybody in the church's bills. Nobody talks about the pastor who you know the whole third row is plotting on you, but you still got to lay hands and pray when they come to the altar. Nobody talks about when the pastor baby don't even have school supplies, but buying the church kids school supplies and gifts. Nobody talks about that. Pastoring is not for the week. And whether it's a small church or a mega church, baby, the problems are still there. I have friends who have mega churches, and I have friends that got storefronts, and the problems are still the same. You have to stay at the feet of Jesus to be a pastor. You cannot get, and I tell this, I want to say this to every young pastor and every seasoned pastor, because sometimes we get seasoned and we become we get into this religious routine. You got so many sermons that you ain't even got to spend time with God. I ain't even got to get a fresh word. I got to been preaching for so long. I got sermons that I can just go back to 1999 and refresh it and remix it. I got a sermon that I preached 5 years ago. Ain't nobody gonna know I can remix. No. Because when you get like that, that's a dangerous place to be in. Because at what point do you go into the secret place to get a fresh word? When do you go before God? I think a dangerous place for a pastor to get to is a routine. Well, this is what I got to do. I got to call sister so-and-so and make sure that, and I got to go call brother so-and-so. And I got to do this meeting on Tuesday. And then on Sunday, as a matter of fact, let me just go, I'm going to preach this. I'm just going to a series. And then it's like you get into a religious routine, and then before you know it, when's the last time you spent time with God? You have to stay at the feet of Jesus when you're dealing with these people.
These people, listen, these people. God told Moses them were his people. And Moses was like, God, these your people. Like, nobody wanted these people.
Moses came down cussing when he saw that Aaron didn't let the people just go. They done built what is going on? Because these people.
It's crazy.
I understand why he called them sheep. Have you ever studied the sheep? Mm-hmm. They dumb. They have to have a shepherd. They have to have. You lose a sheep, they'll run in traffic. Mm-hmm. They have to have a shepherd.
Yeah.
And a shepherd, I'm telling you, it is the most humbling, the most painful, yet the most rewarding position that you can ever be in.
We'll see about that last part. I don't know. No, man, I'll take your word for it. I'm talking about for me.
You have your moments where I can say the good tends to outweigh the bad, especially when you have a heart for the people. And you can see, you'll have those members that'll come in, they came in, they smelling like weed. And now brother so-and-so, he got a job now and he got his life together. Mm-hmm. And he thanking you because the God in you helped him get to that. That's rewarding. Sister so-and-so came up with her boobs out and her skirt halfway up her tail. But now she's modest now and she's becoming a respectful young lady. It makes you, it does something. People that were into New Age and witchcraft and talking to rocks and the moon and the trees and, earthy folk. Now they're reading a Bible and they're in Bible. That is rewarding. And it makes you keep going. Yeah. When people say, Pastor, and you tired and you overwhelmed and you over it. And that one little baby, because you got children in the church, that one little baby. I remember this little girl, her name was Sophia. She was in my church. That baby I think she probably was 7 when she came, and when it was over, I think she probably was like 10. And she would come to me and say, Pastor, I love you. Mm. Pastor, I wrote this scripture. I wrote what you said in church. It's like, oh, y'all listen, the babies is listening to me. Like, I'm making an impact. I had to do a report on who's my best friend, and I wrote about you. Like, that stuff is rewarding, So you have your good days. You have your bad.
I'll say this.
Yeah, you're bad now.
I'll say this. I've had a couple experiences just as a minister that made all of my ministry worth it. Yeah. And one of them being when my grandfather told me that when I speak, he gets it. He understands and it makes him think. Mm-hmm. He made it clear, he said, I'm on a journey, but when you speak, I said, man, he's trying to make me cry.
That's rewarding. That keeps you going. And then it takes you back to the fact that it's not about you. Mm-hmm. When you remove self out the way, I don't want to do this. I don't want to say this. I don't want, I. When you move yourself out the way and realize that it's bigger than you, it'll humble you. I decrease so that he may increase, and it'll keep you going another day.
Listen, I got just a few questions as to not take all your time, but I've seen you prophesy. Mm-hmm. That's a wild thing when you think about it.
Uh-huh.
What the heck is it like when you first are, I don't know where you are when you first experience it, but when you realize I'm looking at somebody and I can see what they did last week and I can see what they need to be doing next week. How first, what's the experience like and how do you manage that?
I don't really know how to explain the prophetic. When you are a true prophetic person, you know some of the stuff you're saying, you don't even know what you're saying. When I'm under the anointing and I don't even know what I'm saying half of the time, but I know God is speaking. And how I've matured in the prophetic, because there's just a simple answer. I pray and say, Lord, you speak through me. Show me what I need to see. Allow my ears to hear your voice and your voice alone. Allow my eyes to see what you want me to see. Give me a word that's going to change the life of somebody in this room. And from there, he does his big one. And you don't even know if you talking right until the person they start crying and they start shouting. It's like, oh, okay, I guess it's right. You know, I don't. The prophetic is not something that can be studied. It's not something you can practice. Not a true one. You know what I'm saying? You yield it to God and you ask God to perfect it. You ask God to speak through you. And that thing goes, and how he's used me prophetically goes beyond, it has gone beyond just with people. He showed me world events. I just posted something that he had gave me a word. I posted it on Facebook and TikTok. He gave me a word in May of 2021 about America becoming an enemy to other countries. And he showed me China and Russia, but there was another flag that I couldn't make out. I didn't know who America was going to get in trouble with. And I couldn't make this out. I said, but there's a third. There's a third. And now here come Iran. Here come Iran. Listen, they ain't gonna do but here comes Iran. So he has dealt with me with politics, and he's dealt with me when it comes to what people need to do as far as their money and things with rappers and all kinds of stuff. And I can't even explain where it comes from, why it happens, but I had entitled it, I had a whole series called Unpopular Prophecies. When God takes me to another level when it comes to politics and world events and things like that, what he shows me and stuff, that stuff cannot be studied. It literally can't be explained. It's something that God, I feel like he always will have a mouthpiece in the earth, multiple ones.
Okay, well, a few questions. One of them I meant to ask you because we kind of breezed through this part, but when you first got saved, I got to go back a minute. What is it that actually brought you to saying, Jesus, I'm going to give you my life today?
So I think a lot of times we make a mistake by making our kids do something that they don't understand. So obviously, in a young age, my grandparents gave me God. So I got baptized with them. I didn't know what baptism was. I just wanted to get in the pool. You know what I'm saying? I saw water. You know, I didn't understand baptism. I didn't understand the confession of Christ, but I did it at an early age. I didn't truly understand it until after the basement. When I came back from New York and I told God, I want all of you. Then I understood what it meant to confess Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. Then I understood what it meant to be baptized by water and baptized in the Holy Ghost. But I didn't know what that stuff meant as a child. But, you know, as parents, we want to do the right thing. And I want to get my baby baptized. And I want to get my baby saved. And that's cool. I do it. But the children don't always understand what they're doing. And that's why you see a lot of adults go back and get baptized and rededicate their life to Christ, because we don't know what we're doing as a 5-year-old, as a 10-year-old, as, you know. And so once I got out of the industry, I think that's when I really understood understood what it meant to be saved.
Okay. So in ministry, you've been ministering for 16 years. So when I ask this question, I just no telling how many stories are going to come to your head.
Oh, gosh.
But I want to know, first, what is one thing that you went through that was tough for you as a minister, as a pastor, apostle, evangelist, that you was like, this was a struggle. I don't know if it was struggle with your faith, struggle with dealing with somebody, struggle with disappointment, but we've all have something that was hard. I know for me, I got saved kind of young, and I knew what I was doing. But there was a time where I had to struggle with my faith, and I just needed to know, is this stuff like, did Jesus actually exist? Like, so that was my struggle. What's something that you dealt with specifically in your time in ministry?
It's funny you asked me that. I wrote a book called Preaching in Pain, and recently I'm writing another book, almost like stemming off of preaching. It's probably like a part 2. I went through one of the worst years of my life. And I was preaching the gospel. I was pastoring. I was doing everything that I knew to do concerning God. I had been pastoring, evangelizing, feeding the hungry, doing all of the things. And I'm a bold preacher too. Like, I don't just I preach against sin, and you got to repent. And, I'm counseling. I'm giving myself 100% to the things of God while my life is falling apart behind the scenes. And I'm praying, and I'm fasting, and I'm studying, and I'm quoting the word, and I'm at his face. I stayed at my own altar. And I'm like, what is going on? When I say my life was literally in shambles, my money, my mind, ministry, marriage, everything was literally crumbling. And I didn't know why. Friendships, years and years of friendships just done. And an armor bearer who had been with me for almost 10 years betrayed me. Everything was like happening back to back to back. And I was losing my mind, but still showing up every Sunday. Still obligated to my itinerary assignments. Still being a mom. Still being a mentor, still being a wife, and losing my mind because God is not answering me. He's silent. He's letting me drown is what I felt like. And a lot of times we associate a storm with sin. I did something wrong and this is my consequence. But what happens when you did everything right? Mm-hmm. And none of us are perfect, but we are striving. And in that season I'm talking about, I was dotting every I and crossing every T, and life was choking me. And God was silent. Everything I touched failed. Everything I touched failed. Everything crumbled. And I'm like, God, hello? I felt like the disciples on the boat. We drowning and you sleep. You know what I mean? Like, hello, do you not see what I'm going through? Do you not feel my pain? And I'm still showing up for you. I'm still doing podcasts. I'm doing interviews. I'm going down to hospitals. I'm visiting my members. I'm giving, and nobody knew that I was sinking. And I didn't need the affirmation of man. I needed God. Mm-hmm. And he was nowhere to be found. That level of brokenness was one that I don't wish on my worst enemy. We always talk about the beginning of a thing and the ending of a thing. We never deal with the middle.
Yeah.
The middle will try to kill you. When we talk about Job, right? Job had all this money, he had all this wealth, he had all this success. He was living right. He was an upright man. That was the beginning. And then we say, and Job went through it, but in the end, he got double for his trouble.
He didn't want double. He didn't want to go through what he went through.
Yeah. And before that, we talking about Job was upright and Job did all this and he got double. But in the middle, Job started getting frustrated. Job got a little angry. Job got a little testy. Then you got some raggedy friends accusing you, tell you what you did wrong. And he's looking at God like, you hate me. Like, what's up with you, bruh? And he's silent through the whole thing. It's like 40-something chapters, 33, 44 chapters in Job. And for a long, God is silent. Your wife told you to curse God and die. Your kids is dead. Your servants is dead. Your calves and your livestock is dead. Now you got your friends in your face saying, well, you had to have done something. God is silent. You got boils on your body. Your Bible talks about how sore he was and he looked like he was dying and unrecognizable. And God is silent. That's the worst season that you would have to go through. When hell is overtaking you and God is silent. I'm suffering and he's silent. That was the worst experience that I went through in ministry. And it was just last year. It was in 2025, and that was the worst year of my entire life. It was worse than the basement to me because the basement only happened for a few weeks. I kid you not, no cap, from January 1st to December 31st.
Sheesh.
Something happened every day from January 1st, 2025 to December 31st, 2025. The devil didn't get off my back.
Goodness.
And God was silent. And I said, all the things that I've done, all the things that I gave up, do you know what I walked away from? Do you start going through all those things? You go through you go through different phases. You go through the broken and contrite spirit, the little lamb saying, Lord, come see about me, Father, I'm holding on. Then he's still quiet. And now you start getting angry and then you start getting self-righteous and you start saying, God, do you not remember what I did and what I could be doing and da-da-da-da and blah, 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 and how I turned the other cheek when I should have pulled up and da-da-da. You start getting into all of that. And he was still silent. And I couldn't understand. And I wanted to quit. I wanted to be done. And it wasn't until we crossed over into 2026 that he started to reveal why certain things had to end and why certain things happened the way that it happened. And I'm just now, in March of 2026, becoming okay with it. Yeah. It'll be 16 years, April 8th of ministry. That was 2025 was the worst year of not just ministry life, my entire life. Because every other isolated incident was a one-time thing. Okay, I went through this and it was over. I went through that and it was over. I had this, even in New York, I went through that a couple of weeks and it was over. This was January 1st to December 31st. There was something. And I don't believe my faith was ever tested and tried like that before. I don't think I ever felt that. I know I didn't. I never felt that before. And you wonder why you have to go through certain things. But it was David who said it was good that I was afflicted. Some of us have to go through the valley in order to get to our victory. Some of us have to go through our greatest pain before ever walking in our greatest promises and purposes. A lot of us want to be Christ-like until it's time to hold our cross. And last year, I had to bear my cross, and it almost killed me. It almost took me out of here. But in order to reign, you got to suffer.
That is, I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, I don't know what to expect, but I wasn't expecting that. I'm extremely glad to know that you're coming out on the other side, though.
Absolutely.
Like, that actually brings joy. 2 questions, we're going to get out of here. 1, what's something that happened in ministry that made you smile? Like, I want to know a win. We got 16 years. I know that there's probably a long list of things, but I just want to know one of the things that when you think about it, you go, this was a good day for me.
I said it. Every time that I saw the change in someone, every time they came back and said, thank you. Just thank you, Pastor. Thank you, Apostle, for your yes. Because I've been to many of churches, I've been to many of services, and it's like I couldn't get it, but something in you just, I got it now. Thank you. Seeing those girls that came in one way and left another, seeing those young men come in one way and leave another, that's my aha moment. That's what keeps me going. When I get an inbox, because, I have followers from different places and people that I've never met in person, but will ride for me like they my cousin.
Yeah.
I'm talking about they tagging me and stuff. They like, I love her, Minister Danny. She's this, she's that. And I'm like, they're like, I've watched you for years. I've never met you. I haven't got to Atlanta yet, but you my favorite preacher. You my this, you my that. I heard your story and I came out the club and I'm gonna make my way to you. And I'm like, I don't even know these people. And they sending me videos crying, and I just heard your testimony. That's what keeps me going. Yeah. Those are wins for me. It ain't how big the platform is, because I've been on small and big ones. It's not that. It's when people say, I heard your story. I heard your ministry. That word you preach, it changed my life, and you actually see the fruit of it. Yeah. That's what keeps me going.
That's awesome. So you've mentioned a couple books. You're an author multiple times over. You said you're going to be writing another one.
I'm working on another one, number 4.
Listen, I don't know if I want to write 4. I wrote one. I got another one in the works, and I might be done at that. But let us know, what are the books that you've written? What are they about? And then how can people get in contact with you, and how can they get those?
Absolutely. So I wrote my first book entitled From Porn to the Pulpit, which I've actually made a stage play out of. We've been able to travel with the stage play, so that might be coming to a city near you. From Porn to the Pulpit started off as a journal, just of the things that I've been through. God started bringing things back to my remembrance, and I wrote about it, and I let someone read it, and they were like, this is a book. And I was like, okay. Sure, that's fine. All right, it's a book. And it did well. And it has been my story. It has carried me all these years. Some people don't even know I'm a preacher. They just know From Porn to the Pulpit. And like, you're the one that wrote the book. You're the one that did the play, And so it is, I think, a fan favorite, From Porn to the Pulpit. But then my second book I wrote was called Barren. I wrote that book because I dealt with natural infertility. I could not have children. After my first son, when I was 13, I was able to get pregnant, but I wasn't able to stay pregnant. And the Lord blessed me. I prayed. When they talk about Hannah, how Hannah prayed for the baby, I prayed. I fasted for my son, and the Lord blessed me with my miracle baby. So I wrote Barren not only just to touch natural infertility, but also spiritual infertility. Because a lot of times we get pregnant with visions and ideas, and then they become aborted, or we miscarry the vision. We miscarry, the ministry. We miscarry the business. We miscarry the marriage. So a lot of us deal not only with natural infertility, but also we're barren in the spirit as well. So I wrote Barren. Third book, which honestly, people think From Porn to the Pulpit is my favorite, but Preaching in Pain. Preaching in Pain is my favorite because I wrote From Porn to the Pulpit for the sinner, for the unbeliever, for the worldly person. I wrote Preaching in Pain for the church. I wrote Preaching in Pain for the preachers. I wrote Preaching in Pain for the armor bearers, the praise and worship leaders, the ushers, the sound people, the drummers, the musicians, the keyboardists. I wrote Preaching in Pain for those who have the PKs, those who know God, love God, want to live for God, have been living for God, and yet the thorn is still in that side. Thinking that once I gave him a yes and once I answered the call, I thought things in life was going to get easier, but in reality, it got worse. I said yes and all hell broke loose. I wrote the book for them. I share my own journey, but I also give pointers on how to navigate through the pain and not get sucked up in the valley and in the bad times and in the storms, but to really prosper through your purpose and through your calling. Although the calling may be chaotic at times, it is still very rewarding. So I got 3 of them things. You can get it on Amazon if you want a actual physical copy, or they can go to my stand store and do a digital copy as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
3-time author, congratulations.
Thank you.
So before we get out of here, I have to know if there's one thing that you could leave with everybody who sees this video, listens to the podcast, what would be the one thing that you want someone to know?
This podcast is mainly for preachers and those who are in the five. For this, how pastors are made is so powerful, and it's so intriguing by itself. So I want to talk to those who are already in leadership, and I want to leave you with this, because a lot of times we do not share what goes on behind the scenes. We only make it look good. But there's a lot of pain that comes with answering the call. However, it's easy to, it is so easy to quit. It's so easy to walk away. What's hard is staying committed to the call. And I know you get frustrated. I know you go through. I know you cry at night. Your members, your team, your staff, they have no idea what you carry. They have no idea the weight and what you got to go through. And it's easy to walk away. It's hard to stay committed to chaos. It's hard to stay committed to betrayers. It's hard to stay committed when the money is low. It is hard. But I promise you, it is worth it, and it is not long. Everything is seasonal. Just like you have your low seasons, you have your up seasons. Just like you have your good days, you have your bad days. But I want you to always remember, in times where you're ready to walk out the pulpit, in times where you're ready to shut down the podcast, in times when you're ready to close the ministry and you're tired of doing whatever it is that God has called you to do, I want you to remember why you said yes in the first place. I want you to always go back to why you said yes in the first place. What did God do for you? What encounter and experience did you have with God that stirred your spirit and says, yes, Lord, I'll do what you told me to do. I love you so much that I'm willing to answer the call. Go back to why you said yes in the first place, and understand that it won't always be like this. It won't always be bad. It won't always be frustrating. You going to come out on the other side. God is going to reward his remnant. So keep going, keep pressing, keep doing what you're called to do, because you are needed.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, this is How Pastors Are Made. I was with Apostle Danielle Williams McCord, and I'm just excited to have had this conversation. Listen, wherever you are, however you heard this, like this, subscribe. If it's YouTube, if it's Spotify or iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, wherever it is, do that. Leave your comments. Let us know what you think, what you feel, and how you've been moved today. And ma'am, again, I appreciate you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your heart. Thank you for being open and honest. And y'all, that's a wrap for this episode of How Pastors Are Made. And we'll be back next week with a new episode.